Good afternoon. Thank you, Professor Barishata, for this for your kind introduction. Today I'm going to go through low oocyte yield. So what? Actually, the objectives of my presentation today will be just to get you introduced through women who produce low oocytes after oocyte collection. How can you address those women? Okay, you will learn how to classify them into women who are hyperresponders and those women with actually diminished ovarian reserve. They don't have a lot of follicles to stimulate. What we will go through is, it has been addressed by Professor Barbara. This is about the basic science, how oocytes develop. They usually primordial germ cells migrate to the ovary and then acquire germ-line cyst and then break down into what we know the primordial follicles. And the process of oocyte growth is the initial before maturation. So if you divide your cycle, what you are seeing antral follicle counts, those have finished the growth and they could start maturation. So before beginning to mature, to get mature, we do have the cells around the oocyte acquiring the LH receptors, the FSH receptors, and this is what you are trying to do. If you have a true poor responder, you are trying to get these receptors sensitized to the gonadotropins you will give for giving the oocyte the maturation kiss. And these are the kind of receptors on granulosa cell and pica cells. And we are all familiar with the oocyte bull, how it develops in the embryo. They get the maximum number at about 20-week gestation, and then they begin to decrease by apoptosis. And the age of menopause usually begin to rise from 25 year until 40. Before this, we call premature ovarian insufficiency or premature ovarian failure. After that, and by age of 60, almost all women lose all total primordial follicle cohort. So the question about how many oocytes do we need for one live birth rate has been addressed by some publications. Publications has shown that if you do one cycle and you get 15 oocytes, that's fine to have one live birth or to secure the maximum live birth rate chance for the woman. And if you get more and more oocytes, that should be plateaued until 20 oocytes. After that, the live birth rate will decrease and the ovarian hyperstimulation and the risk of the IVF cycle will increase. To take it further, people examined, if you need to examine for two live birth or what called multiple delivery, I'm not meaning multiple pregnancy at the same event. It's only if you have one live birth rate and after some time the woman come to have another one live birth. So the curve here is showing that yes, by having 15 oocytes, you are securing 2 live births and not 1 live birth. So then people came across poor responders and they would like to just put a definition for them. And we have reached the Bologna classification. This is for trying to address those people who produce low oocyte, and then there were 2 of these factors. Either you are above 40 or you have a previous poor response and you produce less number of oocytes in the cycle, or you do have one of the ovarian reserve tests low. So if you have 2 of these, you have poor responder. But because Bologna classification did not include some women who are good with good ovarian reserve, they are not having 40 years or older, they are less than 35 sometimes, but they do produce low oocyte yield. Then we came across what we call Poseidon classification, where the low prognosis patient who produce less number of oocytes would be put into one classification. And then all of us know that for group 1 and group 2, those have good ovarian reserve, okay, but they produce less number of oocytes, and for Poseidon 1, they are less than 35, and Poseidon 2 above 35, and for group 3 and 4, they actually have low ovarian reserve and poor response as well. In a SWOT analysis by Professor Drakopoulos, who has been here yesterday, and he gave us a lot of interesting lectures, he made a SWOT analysis about this Poseidon criteria, okay, and the shift from Bologna to Poseidon concept, and he showed that the strengths of this, that we are able to put those low oocyte yield women into a group of patients that's group 1 or group 2, so this gives better stratification. And the weakness at the time this paper was published, that there was no validation for this concept yet. So Poseidon classification is aiming to classify those women into 2 groups. Those women with age-related depletion of oocytes, or sometimes pre-index date for premature ovarian insufficiency or premature ovarian failure, and those with hypo response to what we are giving. They do have the cohort of primordial follicles, but they fail to produce the adequate number of oocytes. And we get some indices to express those women. So you see women at the first day of menstruation, you see the antral follicle count, and you expect that you will get an adequate number of mature Gravian follicle, but unfortunately this doesn't happen. And this is the concept of FORT, okay, and or follicular output rate. Other people would consider what we call follicle to oocyte index, or the FOI index, and this is more specific, where you get the oocytes and then go back to the antral follicle count and then divide them, and you find out that you get less than 50% what you expect, what you have seen. What of antral follicle should have responded betterly to the gonadotropins you give, but this didn't happen. But mind, these are all retrospective, so you did something and you expect something, and this doesn't happen. This is the concept of FOI, as I said, and this is ovarian sensitivity index. And ovarian sensitivity index usually expressed in the amount of gonadotropins you need to get only 1 oocyte. For example, if you give 10 ampoules of 150 gonadotropins, and then you end up with, for example, 10 oocytes, so you get 150 gonadotropins for each 1 oocyte. And these are very good markers to think about if you would like to think about hyporesponders. Those, from back to the basic science, we said that oocytes you see at the menstrual phase, okay, those are antral follicle counts that have finished the growth and they are ready for maturation. So if you are unable to get them mature to the end stage of mature Gravian follicles, so you have a hyporesponders, you don't have women with poor ovarian reserve. And you can classify the causes of this into several causes. First cause would be women with reduced the gamete pool, and I said aging, premature ovarian failure, premature ovarian insufficiency, whatever the cause for this, genetics or exposure to harmful material, whatever. And those women with decreased gonadotropin sensitivity, either due to inherent cause in them, or sometimes it's clinician cause. This is inappropriate or poor oocyte technique. And what are these poor techniques in stimulation? You have to take a very good history of the previous cycle. Speak about the protocol they have taken. They might be inappropriate protocol. Speak about the dose they have taken or the type of gonadotropins. Sometimes very trivial change you do, you will be successful to get more oocyte. Sometimes there are inadequate day of stimulation. Sometimes it is related to the poor egg collection technique. But what about those people with inherent problems? Those people would be who has receptors polymorphism, gonadotropin receptor polymorphism on the LH, on the theca cell or granulosa cell. Those will have less gonadotropin receptors in regards to quantity. Those might have high LH receptors. Sometimes it's slow starting dose. Sometimes it's asynchronous follicular development. And don't forget the empty follicle syndrome, and that some endocrinopathies may affect the process of oocyte maturation. This is a systematic review that that has to ask the question about whether the gonadotropin receptors type, and if we have some sort of some sort of receptor polymorphism would affect the duration of gonadotropins and the amount of oocytes we get, and it has shown clearly the yes. But this is for basic science, because we will not ask women to do a profile of their gonadotropin receptors. And now the question is, we now know that Posidon criteria, group 1 and group 2 might be hyperresponders, and group 3 and group 4 are true poor responders. So what I'm expecting from those groups to get the higher fort, the higher FOI, which group would give me more oocytes when I give them gonadotropin? I am expected. This publication was about this. It was to validate the Posidon criteria, and it was searching which group is the better in this. And it has shown that group 3, this is the group where women are above 30, are below 35, and they do have low ovarian reserve. They are below 35 and with low ovarian reserve. This would give you the highest FOI and the highest FORT. Okay, and what was the worst group? The worst group are those above 35 with good ovarian reserve, okay, who produced less oocytes at time you stimulate them, and you can't find a cause for them. Now, we came to what can I do? What's the management based on evidence? Now, you diagnose them. Those hyperresponders are women with low oocyte yield in a previous cycle. They do have good ovarian reserve. They have low FORT and FOI, okay? So the evidence refers to two strategies. The first strategy is increase your FSH dose, okay? Women usually receive 150 international units gonadotropins based on your assessment that they are good responders, they are young, they are have good ovarian reserve, so you start with the low dose. Next time, don't start below 300. And sometimes you say, according to clinician, you may raise up the dose a little bit, although the ESHRI guidelines said no benefit. The other strategy is, as long as we do have Thanks. Yes. The other strategy, as long as we do we need LH in the stimulation, and we all acknowledge the need for a little bit LH during the stage of maturation, and because LH receptors could have also polymorphism in the receptor, so you need to get some little bit LH. I haven't included here something in my thought, and I will ask my the dear esteemed board here to tell me. Sometimes in those women, I would start with stimulation with the oral ovulatory drugs. I need the endogenous LH. I would need it in the beginning, and then you can get urinary FSH and they get recombinant LH. That's fine. But initially, in the initial phase, I think endogenous, and in my own experience, I found it very good to have some endogenous. You can use clomiphene citrate for 2 days, or you can use letrozole for 2 or 3 days. That should be fine, and then carry on with your stimulation regime or protocol. This is a very good study about the cumulative live birth rates in low prognosis women, and it's quite optimistic because it refers. Yes. I'll just touch it for the Posidon 3 and the Posidon 4. It has shown that the cumulative live birth rate after 6 cycles of stimulation in women with poor ovarian reserve, even if they are above 35, it would reach 40% cumulative live birth rate. But mind, in that study, the antral follicle count was 8, and the AMH was 0.5. So I don't think that this study expressed really the real poor responders who sometimes had AMH 0.1 or less. So yes, if you read between lines, you find out this is not the group what we would work on them. So quickly for women with true poor responders. We do have a lot of intervention. Some people acknowledge using growth hormone, coenzyme Q10, sometimes DHEA, okay, and there is a controversy about them. There is no compelling evidence that we should have them, that the evidence is going on and out, okay, but who knows? Thank you.